Welcome back to Sailing El Jaleo. Last week we had made it up to Dewees Creek, which is just north of Charleston, South Carolina. The next morning we hopped back on the Intracoastal Waterway, and this week we try out 3 brand new anchorages to us. The first one was just a very short trip away in Winyah Creek. The next morning we got back on the ICW and went through one of the shallowest sections of the ICW as we made our way up to Winyah Bay. We went through Winyah Bay and we tried an anchorage behind Butler Island, and the next day we made a very short trip up to Thoroughfare Creek. And that's about as far as we're going to make it this week, so we might as well go ahead and get right into it. Grab a drink, climb aboard, and let's get going. As we got back on the road headed north, I do have to apologize. I made a mistake in last week's video. I got my memorial bridges messed up. I called the swing bridge on the north side of Charleston Harbor the Archie Poo McNeil Memorial Bridge, and that bridge is actually in North Myrtle Beach. The one that's just north of Charleston Harbor is the Ben Sawyer Memorial Bridge, so I apologize for that. And I would go back and fix it because that video has not gone live yet, but as soon as I finish rendering a video, I watch it once just to make sure that it rendered properly, and then I delete all of the source footage. So as soon as it's rendered and watched once, all of that is gone, so I can't fix it. You know, if I tried to save all of the footage that I've taken over the years, I'd probably have 100 hard drives floating around, so I just delete it there. I don't see any point in saving it. But anyway, from the Ben Sawyer Memorial Bridge just north of Charleston Harbor through Winyah Bay, it is the longest sustained shallow spot in the Intracoastal Waterway that currently exists. There are shallow spots all over the Intracoastal Waterway, but this section is very, very, very thin. When you go through here, you'll see 8 feet very commonly. On your depth gauge, you'll see 7 feet very commonly. And at one point in time, I was actually pushing mud with our keel, which is we've got a draft of 5.5 feet. So it is a very shallow spot. So the first day we did go up to Winyah Creek, and it's the first time that we'd ever stayed there. We thought, you know what, let's just have a short day, let's get up there and let's check it out. You know, new anchorage, why not? And I was not very impressed with the anchorage. It looks on the map like it might be somewhat protected, but if you get too far out into the creek, you're basically staring at the open ocean. And depending upon which way the wind is coming from, that can be a real problem. If you stay closer to the bend, getting into Winyah Creek, then you're okay. You've got some semi-decent shelter, but I don't think I would stay there again. It was just not a very well protected anchorage. Now, thankfully for us, the night that we were there, the wind did come around and shift from the south. It was coming out of the southeast. Southeast. So we did have some protection along the land there. But the next morning we got up and we set our sights on Winyah Bay. And this is the shallowest, one of the shallowest sections, and we left at dead low tide. So on my depth gauge, once it gets below 6 feet, it gets a little shaky. I do have a new depth sounder that I'm going to install this summer on EJ, but my old one is it kind of wigs out sometimes. And we were okay. We stayed in the middle of the channel and followed the navigation aids, and we were okay up until one point where we actually got a little bit off the path. There were a lot of crab pots, floats in the middle of the channel, so I was kind of weaving my way through them, and then we lost a knot of speed for no good reason. So the bottom of the bottom there is very silty, so what I suspect happened is we were actually pushing through silt. Now, it wasn't like hitting a hard bottom. You're not going to do any damage unless you have a very thin, finicky keel. Like if you're an offshore boat, I wouldn't go through there. Usually your keel's longer, it's a little more fragile. But EJ she's got a full keel, so unless you hit rocks, like when I hit a jetty in the Delaware River, that did some damage, but a muddy bottom's not going to do anything, and pushing through a silt is certainly not going to cause any damage. So we just pushed through the silt. It was about a 50-yard stretch. We got back into the center of the channel, and then we were perfectly fine all the way up to Winyah Bay. After making it through the shallowest sections between Winyah Creek and the South Santee River, the ICW opens up and you lose a little bit of the protection you had from the trees along the shoreline. And this day it was great. The wind was blowing quite strong, and it was blowing out of the southeast, so we could get our head sail up, and for the next 9-ish miles we were going about 6.5 knots, which for us is crazy town. So we hit that hyper boost button and we really made some good time. Now, it turned out to be a very fortunate thing because we had planned on anchoring right behind Cat Island, which is in Winyah Bay. And right as we were going by Cat Island, there's a little ranger station there, and a fire started as we were going by, and it was a serious fire. So you can see a little bit on the video. You can't see the fire itself, but as we pass Cat Island, you can see some smoke start coming through the trees, and it literally started right as we were going by. Now, I don't know if it was a controlled burn or if it just spontaneously started on its own or someone threw a cigarette butt. I don't know the details of it, but the problem is the wind was blowing very strong that day, and it was blowing directly to where we were going to anchor. So I knew we couldn't anchor there. And thankfully we had made good time earlier in the day, so we would have plenty of time to make it up to Butler Island, which is beyond Winyah Bay, and it's actually right at the start of the Waccamaw River. So we would planned on doing that leg the next day, but we decided since we had time, the wind was good, we might as well go ahead and just knock it out today. And it says we were going up Winyah Bay. The wind was actually much stronger than it was projected, which was fine because we could use it and we were making good speed. We were going against the current at that point, but it was a-okay because we had the wind with us. And we actually ran across the boat that had struck the what bridge was it? It was the Figure 8 Island Bridge, or was it the Ladies Island Bridge? Dang, now I'm having a brain fart. It was in the fall when I was coming through, a boat in front of me struck a bridge, and I forget which one it was exactly. I think it's the Figure 8 Island Bridge. No, maybe it's the Ladies Island Bridge. Anyways, it doesn't matter. But we actually ran across that boat again. Now, I waved to him. He waved back. I tried to call him on the radio to see how he was doing and how his repairs went, but he didn't answer. And, it's like that day, everyone was trying to get him on the radio and he didn't answer. So I don't know, maybe his radio is somewhere where he can't hear it or something, or maybe he just didn't want to talk, who knows. But anyway, it was nice to see him. I had known that he was back on the road. I had seen him moving for about 3 months. I was kind of stalking him online because, I was interested. I was hoping that he would get his boat repaired and get back on the road. And he did, and he actually made it all the way to the Bahamas, stayed for, 2 or 3 weeks, and then he was heading back. It is a Canadian flag boat, so I assume he's heading back to Canada. So it was nice to run across him and see that he was moving again, and, I'm assuming he's in good spirits. So wish him nothing but the best. So that was an unfortunate thing that happened, and I'm so glad that he's up and running again. But anyway, we made it up Winyah Bay, and we anchored behind Butler Island, where we had never anchored before. It was a nice anchorage. If the wind is out of the right direction, you can get a little bit of shielding from the trees there on the island. But what I found was the wind actually tunnels down. At least the wind, it was blowing from the southeast, and it kind of wraps around the island and follows the flow of the river. So it was choppier than what we were expecting, given the way that the wind was traveling. So we only stayed there one night, and sorry if you can hear dogs scratching around upstairs, but so we only stayed there one night, and then the next morning we made our way up to Thoroughfare Creek. The trip up to Thoroughfare Creek was very short. It was only about 8 or 9 miles, but it was very enjoyable. I love that area. The Waccamaw is my favorite place on the entire East Coast. I am red-green colorblind, and the color of the cypress trees when they're in bloom I find absolutely stunning. It's a color I've never seen anywhere else in the world. And I don't know if my color blindness plays into that, or do normal people think that cypress trees are just absolutely stunning. It's like something out of a Dr. Seuss book. It's just like, it almost looks like a cartoon how green they are. It's just phenomenal. But anyway, we made it up to Thoroughfare Creek. Peter and Kristen had recommended that we stop there, and it was great. There was a beach there that I could take the dogs to, and we ran around. And when we go to a controlled place like a beach where I know they're not going to get away, I usually don't bring their leashes with. I just let them run around if there's going to be no other people there, just because they have more fun exploring on their own at their own pace. But what I forgot for about 10 minutes was that we were back in freshwater. This is one of the 2 times where we're in freshwater. There's a short stretch in Virginia after we go through Bainbridge, Virginia, that is freshwater for just a little bit. And then as we pass through the Waccamaw, that is freshwater as well. And with freshwater comes alligators. So when you've got dogs playing in the water and there are alligators near, then I've, snapped out of it. I'm like, holy crap. So I tried to keep them out of the water, which trying to keep Neptune out of the water never works. And even Linus was going in the water, and Linus never goes in the water. So we only stayed for about 25 minutes, and then we got back in the dinghy. I was starting to get paranoid, so we went back, and and that's when people started to show up. So this was on a Friday. So apparently the beach is like a hangout spot for, I guess I would call them young kids. I'm assuming they were just barely drinking age, or maybe a little bit younger, who knows. But they were having a party over on the beach. They were making a lot of noise, which is perfectly fine. I have no problem with that. You do you. It was like literally no problem. And that's what people do. They have fun on the weekends. They have parties. But the thing that really bothered me was there was one guy. There were 2 guys that were in like speedboats, like racing speedboats, and one guy just kept zipping up and down right next to our boat, going, I would estimate at least 40 miles an hour. Here you can see him going past. You let me know. I'm guessing 35 to 40 miles an hour. But it's way too fast to be going that close to EJ. It made me nervous. And I had seen him coming around the corner trying to go at speed, and he was losing control of the boat. So, and he had to come around a corner to go by me that fast. So if he lost control of his boat and hit me going even 35 miles an hour, I mean, it's game over. So we couldn't move on that night, but the next morning, it was a Friday night, so the next morning was going to be probably just as bad. So we decided to move up to Prince Creek. We stopped at the Waccamaw Marina and we refilled on fuel and water, and that allowed us to go up to Prince Creek and do a bunch of laundry. Now, I had put in an order for some beer at Waccamaw, and also I had some dog treats delivered there, and that wouldn't be in until Thursday. So we were going to be in Prince Creek for a little while. But it was nice to get out of Thoroughfare Creek, at least for the weekend. I'm sure it's perfectly fine on the week, but we did do some exploring while we were there. We went back into, there's a little residential area in kind of a swamp. It was really actually kind of neat. But anyways, Thoroughfare Creek, probably fine on the weekday, but at least on this one weekend, it was, I felt it was a little dangerous. And that's all we have time for this week. I would like to give a massive shout out to my Patreon crew. Without your guys' support, I wouldn't make these videos. And my Patreon crew is Joan and Judy Judnick, Val and Chris Alcorn, Denise and Eli Sackett, Sherry Erickson, Deb Shaw, Matthew Spotton, Peter Allen, and Natalie Linehan. Thank you guys so very much. Your support really means the world to me. I do have one legacy patron member, and her name is Joan Linbo. Unfortunately, she has passed on, but she lives on in our hearts forever. We really miss you, Joan. If you are interested in joining our Patreon crew, there is a link in the description down below, and that'll take you to our Patreon page where you can sign up. And there are hundreds, literally hundreds of extra videos and photos of our travels, and I try and keep everything there up to date and post at least once or twice a week, so it gives you a little peek behind the curtain. If you do like our videos, please like, comment, and subscribe. That'll help us out more than you'll ever know, and that actually doesn't cost you anything, so hit that like button. Alrighty, I hope you all are well, and we'll see you next week.